This is the 23rd session of the conference, and to chair and moderate this session, it is a great pleasure to have with us Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. Dr. Pramod Jaiswal is a research director at Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement. He is a visiting fellow at Sandia National Laboratories, New Mexico, US, and senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies, New Delhi. Dr. Jaiswal has been a regular and visiting faculty at different universities of Nepal and China. Without any further ado, I request the chair to take over. Good morning, good afternoon, and
thank you, Admiral Professor Dr. Jayanath Colombage and distinguished participants. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the 23rd session of Nice Global Conclave. We are having a special lecture on Indian Ocean and Maritime Security with Admiral Professor Dr. Jayanath Colombage, Foreign Secretary of Sri Lanka. Admiral Professor Dr. Jayanath Colombage, we are really privileged to have you with us at NICE. We are grateful and honored for providing us your valuable time. Admiral Professor Dr. Jayanath Colombage needs no introduction. However, let me briefly introduce Admiral Colombage. Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage has served the Sri Lankan Navy for a period of 36 years and retired as the Commander of the Navy. He is the 18th Commander of the Sri Lankan Navy and has decorated for gallantry and commanded for exceptional service to the Navy. Previously, he was Additional Secretary of the President of Sri Lanka of Foreign Relations. He holds a PhD from General Sir John Kotelwala Defence University, Sri Lanka. He also holds MSc on Defence and Strategic Studies from Madras University and Masters on International Studies from King's College London. He is a visiting lecturer of the University of Colombo Defence Service Commanding Staff College, Sri Lanka, Kotelwala Defence University, Bandaranaike Center for International Studies and Bandaranaike International Diplomatic Training Institute. He is a fellow of Nautical Institute, London, UK. Admiral Colombage is a guest professor at Sichuan University and Lausanne Normal University in China, and an adjunct professor at National Institute of South China Sea Studies, Haikou, China. In addition, he has been a guest lecturer in several key universities and training institutes, Bangladesh, India, Japan, and Pakistan. He has also been an editor and reviewer of a number of international renowned academic journals. In addition, he has served as the Director General of the Institute of National Security Studies, Sri Lanka as well. The program is streaming live on Facebook, and we'd like to request all our participants to share the video link on the social media so that maximum can benefit from the discussion. Please drop your questions in the Zoom chat room or on the Facebook Live. Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage would like to request you to make your presentation in 20-25 minutes, which will be followed by the questions. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me now? I have unmute.
So, yes, it's perfect, sir. Please
okay. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be with you. I see your program is really a great one. So many events, so many areas, so many subject matter experts talking. So I'm really happy to be a part of this wonderful program. And the task given to me is to talk about the Indian Ocean and the Indian Ocean security. So let me talk to you about 20-25 minutes, and then I will answer if you have any questions thereafter. We all know that in the 21st century, the Indian Ocean has come to the forefront of the major oceans in the world. And I mean, if we remember Admiral Thea Mahan, more than 100 years ago, he said in the 21st century, the Indian Ocean will play a key role. And he meant about sea power and the command of the ocean. At that time, we really wonder how he thought, and his prophecy is indeed coming true a century later. So now, right now, we do see that there are efforts to control the Indian Ocean, or to dominate the Indian Ocean, or to be present in the Indian Ocean. because the Indian Ocean has become the key ocean in the world today, of course, together with the Pacific Ocean. Now, if you look at the number of strategies concerning the Indian Ocean, I think the largest number of strategies for an ocean in the 21st century is now focusing on the Indian Ocean. Now, of course, we have America's Indo-Pacific strategy, then we have Japan's free and open Indo-Pacific strategy, then we have ASEAN outlook on Indo-Pacific strategy, then we have EU Indo-Pacific strategy, then we have India's Indian Ocean region security strategy, then we have German Indo-Pacific strategy, then of course, slightly a different way, we have China's Belt and Road Initiative. So large number of strategies, large number of initiatives are right now focusing on the Indian Ocean. Now, let me ask a question from the Indian Ocean littoral countries. We have about 22 littorals in the Indian Ocean, but what do we need in the Indian Ocean? What is our strategy in the Indian Ocean? You know, the list of strategies that I mentioned, majority of them are from outside the Indian Ocean, focus in the Indian Ocean. But unfortunately, we don't see a strategy for the Indian Ocean by the Indian Ocean. So this is, I think, an area we really need to be focused on. Now, if you ask me, a country like Sri Lanka, a littoral state in Sri Lanka, what do we need in the Indian Ocean? I have a very simple answer. I would say we want free and open international rules-based maritime order, period. We really need it, right? And I categorically say international rules-based. It is not only rules-based, but international rules-based maritime order. All the countries in the Indian Ocean are interested in. But is that enough for the Indian Ocean littorals? The answer is no. So the second point, together with the free and open, low international rules-based maritime order, what we need is we need enhanced maritime trade, enhanced maritime connectivity, enhanced seaborne trade. So these two, unless the strategy or the free and open international rules-based order can be matched with enhanced trade, we don't have anything working for the Indian Ocean. So right now we see on one hand, there are attempts to have a free and open rules-based maritime order. On another hand, we see that the enhancement of maritime trade, but these two should go hand in glove. Now, another thing is many of the Indian Ocean littorals do not want to see a single hegemonic power trying or dominating the Indian Ocean. We believe the Indian Ocean is a global common. Indian Ocean should be open for maritime commerce. Indian Ocean should be open for any peaceful use of any nation for that matter. So what we don't like to be forced to choose between this side and that side. We don't want to bandwagon with one group or the other. We don't want to hedge one group against the other. What we need in the Indian Ocean, insofar as security is concerned, we need to maintain our strategic autonomy and engage in maritime trade. Now, when you look at South Asia, I mean, I think the focus is on South Asia as well in this conference. Now, this is the least integrated region in the world. I mean, the statistics say only less than 5% of our combined GDP is economically integrated. Now, what does that mean? A very promising region which played a key role through the history and which has a very large population, of course, together with India, is not properly economically integrated. So this is something which is keeping the South Asia at the lower structure in the development. Of course, we do see that India is doing well, Bangladesh is doing well, but as a region, we are not doing well, right? Now, this region needs huge amount of money to develop maritime related infrastructure. In 2018, the World Bank released a report and they said $460 billion are needed to develop infrastructure in Asia. So, and we know that South Asia lack quality infrastructure, and we do need this foreign direct investment, not loans, may not be even grants, but foreign direct investment to improve the maritime related infrastructure so that we can be better connected through trade and various other activities. Now, if you look at the Indian Ocean trade, we know the figures very well. 72% of world energy, 50% of world containers, 35% of bulk cargo are transported across the Indian Ocean on the east and the west trade. But the question is, how much of it is for the Indian Ocean countries? This is where the problem is. Although we are in the Indian Ocean pretty much engaged in the world ocean trade, very little trade is taking place for large number of Indian Ocean littorals. Although the Indian Ocean is considered as the energy highway, it is many countries are not part of that. It is actually countries like India, China, Japan, even South Korea. They are the major stakeholders in the energy maritime trade across the Indian Ocean. Now, another thing is, when you say 72% of energy, 50% of containers, 35% of bulk cargo for the world, it also means that if the Indian Ocean trade is interrupted, the world economy will collapse. So therefore, the Indian Ocean is of great importance, but then we have to have our share, we have to have our stake in the Indian Ocean today. So ladies and gentlemen, today, unlike any time in the history, we do see a major power competition taking place in the Indian Ocean, across the Indian Ocean. We know that the USA is the preeminent superpower still in the world, but we do see other countries emerging. For example, China, for example, India are also emerging as major players in the Indian Ocean power game. Now, if you ask me, what is the main reason for increased attention in the Indian Ocean, I would say it is the rise of China, because we all know from 2009 to 2021 that China's economic growth has been phenomenal, right? I mean, if you take the global 500 Fortune companies, in 20 years ago, there was hardly any Chinese companies, but today there are 129 companies in the global Fortune 500 list. So that means China has a phenomenal economic growth. Now also, not only China, but India is also developing very fast economically. And India is right now in the 6th position in the world ranking. And they are tipped to be number 3, whereas China is tipped to be number 1 economy by 2030. So we do see there is this Thucydides trap or Thucydides concept being played in the Indian Ocean. We have an established power and we have a rising power. So in the history, when an established power is being threatened by a rising power, I think 12 out of 16 occasions they have gone to war. So let us hope that it will not come to that level in the Indian Ocean this time, but it is increasingly becoming a very contested area. Now we do see that the aspirations of China, India, and also the USA, and also USA, the quest to keep the Indian Ocean free and open, this has in fact led to a conflict situation, unfortunately. Now, both the countries, China and India are either in the Indian Ocean or very close to the Indian Ocean. Now their economies are growing up, and when their economies are growing naturally, their military is also changing from an inward leaning to outward leaning. So the China's coming to the Indian Ocean is not a strange thing. After about 2009, they have come. So ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the Indian Ocean, let me quickly mention 5 events that took place during the last decade or so. Number one was the piracy in Horn of Africa. A very small group of pirates in the Somalian, from originating from Somali, took the world merchant shipping into ransom, right? Then, of course, we had two maritime accidents around Sri Lanka. One was a fire on board MT New Diamond. Then, of course, there was a major fire on board MV Express Pearl very recently. And also blocking of the Suez Canal by Evergreen ship. And the fifth one is COVID-19 pandemic. Now, these 5 events has actually changed the dynamics of the Indian Ocean. And also it gives rise to the idea, understanding that any unexpected thing can happen in the Indian Ocean, and it can have great ramification to the entire world. When the Evergreen ship was blocking the Suez Canal, we know what it happened. I mean, when the Somali pirates were hijacking the ship, we know what happened. So these kinds of events can happen in the Indian Ocean. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to summarize the Indian Ocean competition, I can describe the Indian Ocean in 6 words. These 6 words are: this is a region of strategic competition, strategic convergence, and strategic dilemma. Strategic competition between major powers, strategic convergence, some major powers with some other major powers, strategic dilemma or dilemma for large number of countries in the Indian Ocean. Now, this competition I can also mention as RMB, but it is not renminbi yuan. It is resources, markets, and bases. Whether you like it or not, these 3 competition is taking place in the Indian Ocean. We know Indian Ocean has a huge population, 2.5 billion. That's about 1/3 of world population. So the emerging middle class, emerging markets are here. Resources are here. And also the bases. During the colonial time, the colonial powers dominated the Indian Ocean by having bases on land, as well as controlling the islands. And the similar thing is happening even now. Now, ladies and gentlemen, in the Indian Ocean, I mentioned about large number of strategies concerning the Indian Ocean. Then right now we cannot talk about the Indian Ocean without talking about the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or the QUAD. We know that the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue started somewhere in 2004, especially as a response to the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, because many countries were impacted heavily, including Sri Lanka and parts of India, by the Boxing Day tsunami. So the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue started to provide relief to these countries, but now it has grown from 2004 to 2021. But I think I have more questions about QUAD than answers. Some of the questions I would list, but I'm not going to answer them now. I think these questions need answers. Now, the questions are, is QUAD only to counter the rising China? Can the QUAD members leverage to extend concessions from China? Will it not officialize the unofficial maritime cool war in the Indian Ocean? Is QUAD going to be exclusive or inclusive? Will QUAD grow into a dangerous monster? Will QUAD lead to a further arms race and militarization of the Indian Ocean? Now, these are some of the questions that I have about QUAD, and I think we need to discuss these things and find answers to these things. Now, I mentioned about the militarization of the Indian Ocean. It is believed that the Indian Ocean is the most militarized ocean in the world. At any given time, 100 to 125 warships belonging to about 28 different nations are present in the Indian Ocean. That's a huge number. I have a very interesting figure. When you are talking about Sri Lanka, from 2009 to 2021 June, 555 warships have visited Sri Lanka from 29 different countries. Now, this is an indication that Indian Ocean is heavily militarized. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me change to some of the other issues concerning the Indian Ocean. I think one of the major problems in the Indian Ocean is there is mistrust, trust deficiency among the Indian Ocean littorals. Now, of course, another major thing is the unforeseen enemy, that is the environment, ocean pollution. We keep adding toxic waste, we keep adding plastic, we keep adding nitrogen, we keep adding many different pollutants. They say 80% of pollution in the ocean start on land. Now, unfortunately, excuse me, unfortunately, Indian Ocean is fast becoming a heavily polluted ocean. We now know there is a 60,000 square kilometer dead zone in the Bay of Bengal. And we now know there is a huge garbage patch extending to thousands of kilometers in the southern Indian Ocean. If we allow this to continue, very soon we can talk about security, but there won't be an Indian Ocean to talk about. So we need to be very mindful about the environmental factor. Another important aspect regarding maritime security is illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. FAO reported recently that nearly 40% of fishing taking place in the Indian Ocean is illegal, unregulated, and unreported. That means we are destroying our fish stocks. So very soon, there'll be more plastic bottles in the Indian Ocean than the fish. And also, if we continue, there won't be any fish to eat. Then another aspect is maritime terrorism. Now, Sri Lanka suffered at the hands of maritime terrorism for a very long period. And India suffered a massive blow in the Mumbai attack. And similarly, the maritime terrorism can erupt anywhere in the Indian Ocean. We are not immune from maritime terrorism. And my worry is whether the Islamic State will come to the ocean and to use the ocean for their activities. So that is something we really need to be focused on, the maritime terrorism aspect in the Indian Ocean. Another crime or another maritime crime taking place across the Indian Ocean, which has direct ramification on maritime security, is irregular migration by sea. Irregular migration by sea. Now here I have to mention, it is easy to point the finger at source countries. Now, Sri Lanka was a source country until about 2012. It is easy to say, oh, you are sending irregular migration. But I think equally the developed country which are accepting these migrants, irregular migration by sea, should equally take the blame, because only this is a supply and demand. Only because they take these people, people are going, and people are saying all lies about your own country in order to get asylum, in order to claim refugee status in another country. Now, in that case, I have to mention that the Australia and Sri Lanka has a joint working group, and it has worked brilliantly well, because Australia made a very clear decision that no boat people will be allowed to come into Australia. The moment they made the decision somewhere around 2012, 2013, the irregular migration from Sri Lanka to Australia came to a virtual stop, right? So this is why I said the irregular migration is a dual responsibility from the source country and the recipient country. Then also I mentioned briefly about piracy. Is the piracy over in the Indian Ocean? The answer is no. We still have an ungoverned space in Somalia. Yemen is increasingly becoming ungoverned space, unstable country. So there are certain land bases which can be the breeding grounds for pirates. And we know the Indian Ocean has large number of choke points, like the Strait of Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, Malacca Strait. Ships have to go through these choke points. So when ships are traversing through these choke points, they become very vulnerable. Now, ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 has really impacted the Indian Ocean and the Indian Ocean security. You know, we have had many lockdowns. Now we are struggling to get the vaccines, and COVID is not really going away. The post COVID-19 world is still an elusive world, and we have to get used to living with it. And of course, the ships at sea have become dangerous places because the crew cannot do their transfers, because on board a ship, if a crew member has to serve more than say 6 to 8 months, the mental fatigue is enormous, right? So Sri Lanka has, by using the geostrategic location, we have devised a method to cater to seafarers for the entire region, and we are doing it in the southern part of our country. So ladies and gentlemen, what do we really need in the Indian Ocean is my final sentiments in the maritime security maritime security is concerned. I always believe that we need to come up and come out with a Indian Ocean region maritime strategy, Indian Ocean regional maritime strategy. And I do see two platforms, IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, and IONS, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, as two platforms which can carry this Indian Ocean centric strategy. So that is something we need. And we need to, secondly, prevent this unnecessary arms race taking place in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka proposed in 1976 that Indian Ocean should be a zone of peace. It was approved by the United Nations, but it never really saw the light at the end of the tunnel, because major powers did not want that to happen. They did not want the Indian Ocean to be a zone of peace. Now 45 years later, many countries in the Indian Ocean wish that Indian Ocean remains a peaceful region so that their countries can develop through maritime trade. Now we need maritime domain awareness because we are maritime blind. I mentioned 40% of fishing is illegal, and about large number of ships are not reporting their position accurately, and ocean polluters we don't know. So we need to have better maritime domain awareness concept. Right now, India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives are having a very good maritime domain awareness system, but then we need to expand it to at least to begin with the Bay of Bengal and to the wider Indian Ocean. So we need really, and thirdly, with the security strategy, we need an Indian Ocean wide security architecture. We talk about security architectures of other players. Why don't we talk about Indian Ocean centric security architecture in order to mitigate and be prepared for regional security challenges? Then we need a legal and policy framework for various practical implications, and we need to embark on programs to work together. And also we need to create synergy between our countries, between our entities. And very importantly, I would say, we need more academic discourse like what we are doing now to talk about the Indian Ocean, because this is our lifeline. We cannot afford to lose this lifeline. So therefore, let me conclude my talk. I have taken exactly 25 minutes by saying Indian Ocean is a global common. It is important for the entire world. Let us maintain the sanctity of this ocean. So I have completed my talk. Over to you, Dr. Jaiswal now.
Admiral Professor Jayanath Colombage, thank you very much for the comprehensive presentation. We have received lots of questions. I can see around 40-45 of them, but we hardly have 15 minutes. So let me share the questions. The first question is, Mike Pompeo visited Sri Lanka, and there was a visit by Indian Foreign Minister and Indian National Security Advisor participated in trilateral maritime meeting. Is Sri Lanka going to join the Indo-Pacific strategy? This is one that we have received from Facebook.
Well, very briefly, I can say, yes, Mike Pompeo came, Mr. Jaishankar came, Ajit Joal came, a Chinese defense minister came. Sri Lanka is the pretty girl in this particular area. Everybody likes to come here, and we don't mind. We like to welcome everyone to come. But I don't think we are ready to be bandwagon with one group against another. What we really need is to maintain our own strategic autonomy and to make decisions for the betterment of Sri Lanka. We need to develop our country economically. We are really lagging behind in that. We have been lagging behind that for the last 73 years. So it is high time we take action to develop our people, our economy. So at this moment, we have no intention of bandwagoning with any particular group against another. We want to maintain, we don't want to be part of that power game.
Similarly, we have received lots of questions, they're overlapping as well. So maybe you can be very, very brief if it has been answered. Like there are lots of interest from US, China, and India regarding the Indian Ocean. How Sri Lanka managed to maintain peaceful relations and progress economically and politically in a new era of great powers. Let me also club one more. What is Sri Lanka's stand on United States Indo-Pacific strategy, which you have briefly replied? How have Sri Lanka committed towards Indian Ocean Rim Association and the Indian Ocean regional building?
Well, very briefly, I can tell you, Doctor, Sri Lanka, because we have learned through the lessons in the past, right? So therefore, the current government has a very clear foreign policy. Now, the cornerstone of that foreign policy is neutrality. Right, whilst because we are a non-aligned country, we are not denying that, yes, we are a non-aligned country, but we want to remain neutral. So we have a very clear stated policy of neutrality. Again, we don't want to bandwagon with any power, but to maintain neutrality. So therefore, we will not be part of this strategy or that strategy. And that is why I'm promoting an Indian Ocean strategy by Indian Ocean countries. And then the second part of the question you asked about the IORA. Of course, Sri Lanka is playing a key role in IORA. Because Sri Lanka is responsible for policy development in maritime security and maritime safety. Now we have really worked very hard during the last 2 years, and only thing because of the COVID, we were not really able to meet and progress faster than we should have had. But we are committed to the Indian Ocean Rim Association. We firmly believe the future maritime domain, maritime strategy, maritime security architecture of the Indian Ocean should evolve through the IORA. So Indian Ocean Rim Association, and I think all the members of IORA should work towards achieving that rather than dancing to the tunes of other players. Have our own or have your own strategy. So IORA is the greatest platform I think we have, because it has evolved into a very mature organization. It is an Indian initiative, I think 20 years ago, but it has really evolved into a very efficient organization. And then I think that's the way forward as we see it from Sri Lanka.
Thank you, sir. Let me move to the next question. Like Sri Lanka has been endorsed as the Vice Chair of Indian Ocean Rim Association Council 2001 to 2023, 2021 to 2023, and will become chairman in 2022 to 2025. What is Sri Lanka's policy or outlook towards maintaining a safe, secure, and peaceful Indian Ocean region?
Well, again, I think I have to come back to the same thing I said. We believe firmly that Indian Ocean Rim Association is the future. So we would really try our best to be the catalyst for the discussion in the IORA, and we would really try to promote the idea of having an Indian Ocean Rim Association wide or Indian Ocean wide maritime strategy. And we would try our best, or we would try to contribute to minimize the tension, diffuse the tension in the Indian Ocean through the IORA. Because right now, the tension, of course, we don't see, of course, in Sri Lanka, we see it every day. Not many countries even see this competition in the Indian Ocean, because it may not happen in their country. But unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, it is happening every day. We do see this strategic competition unfolding in Sri Lanka, which is not good. So we really want to work through IORA and make IORA happen to come out with the Indian Ocean centric strategy and to iron out this mistrust and to diffuse the tension in the Indian Ocean.
Thank you, sir. There's another question on China and geopolitics. Like, as a small state, how does Sri Lanka plan to hedge against India and China at a time when Sri Lanka has grown its strategic importance? And do you see arm race in the Indian Ocean region in near future? There are two questions that I have.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you see, I will answer the first question or the second question last. There is when we talk about international relation, insecurity of one nation lead to insecurity of many other nations. This is the fact. We have seen it in the past. When one country feel insecure and then they try to develop their own defenses, it leads to insecurity of many other countries. So this is exactly the situation in the Indian Ocean right now, because there is an arms race, there is heavy expenditure on defense in the Indian Ocean, because unfortunately we have to accept that we are not the most developed region in the world. We are quite low in the ladder, and our focus is basically economically uplifting our people, but still we have to spend a lot of money on defense because of this mistrust and the trust deficiency in the region. So we really have to work very hard to, not to escalate any further the arms race, because people, the major powers, they like this arms race because we keep buying from them. So we should not be caught in that business trap. Right? We should be thinking, why do we need this much of arms to fight with whom? Right? So everyone has a responsibility, not only the Indian Ocean littorals, but even the outside players or outside partners coming to the Indian Ocean should be mindful not to contribute to the arms race in the Indian Ocean. We do see this everywhere. Heavy expenditure on defense, new experiments, new technology is coming off, new technology should come in, but heavy expenditure on defense, and as a result, the increased militarization. Then you ask, how does a small country like Sri Lanka manage relations with China and India? We don't want to hedge between the two. With India, we are focusing mostly on strategic security, but with China, it is mostly economics, commerce. So we are trying our best to divide the two, right? We are trying not to allow these two to mix, because we don't want to be a strategic security concern to India, because India, Sri Lanka, if you take maritime domain,
हाम्रै गयो क्या? Hello? So we can't hear you. We're trying to connect with the speaker. Kindly, I think he has joined. Just a second.
Doctor, I'm sorry, there was a power failure.
Sure, sir. Please continue.
Yeah. So China, as far as we are concerned, we are looking at economic connections with China because we are having many projects undertaken by Chinese companies. We need to revive our economy. In economic terms, we are not doing very well. But we don't want to be a strategic security concern to India. So this is very clear. I mean, the president of Sri Lanka, he addressed the Asian Leaders Summit organized by Nikkei, Japan, 2 weeks ago. And he very categorically said that he will not allow any country to jeopardize security interest of India. But then again, now security interest of India, we look at India with topmost urgency. But then we need to develop our country economically. We need ports, we need railways, we need roads, we need airports, right? So that we need multiple investment. But unfortunately, in Sri Lanka's case, this multiple investment is not coming, right? It is mainly coming from China and Japan, of course, India a little way, but we need more investment to come. So we don't want to bandwagon or we don't want to hedge between the two. As far as India is concerned, it is strategic security. And as far as China is concerned, it is our trade and economics. So this is how we are trying to balance the two.
Thank you, sir. Now we have 3 minutes, so let me put the last question for today. How can Sri Lanka and other small states in Indo-Pacific region successfully balance relations between the US and China? And there's another question directly related to Sri Lanka. Will Rajapaksa presidency lead to more independent foreign policy of Sri Lanka?
Again, the second question, please.
Will Rajapaksa presidency lead to more independent foreign policy of Sri Lanka?
Well, I mean, this is the same question because the USA is the established power and China is the new entrant to the Indian Ocean. So there is conflict, and we do see this competition, as I mentioned, in Sri Lanka on a day-to-day basis, right? So we are expected to do things. We are expected to say things. We are expected to be partners of certain things, which is not to the best of our country. So this is something we are really battling. So we need to benefit from everyone. So I think this is linked to the second part of the question as well. For the first time in Sri Lankan history, we have a written down foreign policy directive. We have a 20-point foreign policy guidelines or directives. Now in that, these issues are clearly addressed. One thing we want to, while remaining a non-aligned country, we want to be neutral. Number one, we want to maintain friendly relations with everyone. Number three, very consciously, we want to avoid getting caught in the power game. Number three. So these three things. And also, we don't want to be a strategic security concern to India. Number four. So when you balance the four, I mean, so far we have done, but then you see, this is from our side. But then others don't look at it in the same way. They will say, no, you are with them. You are with this partner or that partner. No, we are trying, because we do understand, we don't, as a small country, we don't have the luxury of selecting one. We have to work with everyone. We have to work with every power. We have to develop economically. That's our number one priority, whilst not becoming a threat to the others. So I think the rest of the world should understand a small country like Sri Lanka. I think Nepal is going through a similar thing to what we are going through in Sri Lanka. Bangladesh, up to a certain level, is going through a similar situation. So I think the big countries should try to understand the aspirations of small countries like Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. You know, how long are we going to be poor? How long? Why should we be? Don't we have intelligent people? Don't we have resources? We have everything going. But still, unfortunately, our focus is not really 100% in economic development because we have other things to resolve. So big countries, I think they have a responsibility to support us to come out of this poverty, to become a responsible country, and to play our role in the global domain. So this is, I think, the best way for small countries like Nepal, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, even Maldives for that matter, Bangladesh in the Indian Ocean.
Thank you, Admiral Professor Dr. Jayanath Colombage. Thank you once again for your comprehensive presentation and your valuable time. We wish to have you again in future, maybe in real in Kathmandu, once things get normal. We'd also like to thank our audience for their wonderful questions. Thank you so much and have a nice day.
Have a nice
Thank you,
day.
sir.
Namaste.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so